Hello and welcome to Subversive Radio. I'm your host, Keith Giles, and it's been a while, hasn't it? I apologize because it actually feels like it's been a long time since I've done a podcast. I've been very busy doing weekly Skype podcasts, Skype video podcasts with my good friend Dan Naughty. And if you haven't been following that, I encourage you to go to my blog, keithgiles.com. And if you do that, you'll be able to find all of them. We've done 6 episodes now, and that's been pretty regular. So every Tuesday we record one, and typically by Tuesday night or at least the next day, Wednesday morning, it's posted on my blog. So if you're not following that, I encourage you to do that. You can go, like I said, to my blog and catch up on that. It's devoted to the topic of organic church. We've been kind of sticking to that topic pretty regularly. That's kind of the touch point that Dan and I have in common. So I want to give a plug for that. Make sure you're following that if you're interested in that topic of organic, simple church, New Testament church. A couple other quick announcements. I have put all of my podcasts, I have 3 different podcast channels on Spreaker. Those are all on iTunes now. You can go on iTunes and listen to all of those, download those. All of those are all for free. And also my Blog Talk Radio series of podcasts. Those are also available. Now, here's the deal. If you're searching for them, you can find all of the Spreaker ones by searching my name, Keith Giles. All 3 of them will come up. But Subversive Radio will not come up. So if you want to follow, listen to the ones on iTunes that are from the Blog Talk Radio ones, and by the way, those are really great. Those are a lot of interviews that I did with various people. Then you have to search Subversive Radio by name. If you search Subversive Radio under podcasts, under iTunes, you'll find it. And I'm getting ready to create a 4th Spreaker podcast after this one. So I will let you know what that is. And then what I would encourage you to do is to subscribe at iTunes. Go to iTunes and subscribe to my new podcast, which I haven't created yet, so you can't do it yet. But I'm going to be having a contest, so you might want to hang off on that a little bit. I will announce the details of that coming up as well. But I guess I can go in and tell you now the way it's going to work. I have a whole bunch of organic church books. I'm looking at a stack of them right now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different books by Frank Viola, including Pagan Christianity, Rethinking the Wineskin, Who is Your Covering, So You Want to Start a House Church, From Nazareth to Patmos. Those are all in a series by Frank Viola. Then I also have Reimagining Church, From Eternity to Here, and Finding Organic Church. Those are all by Frank Viola. I also have John Zinn's excellent book, What's with Paul and Women, as well as a few other books, just kind of random books. Starving Jesus, Red Rising by Pierce Brown, Giving Church Another Chance by Todd Hunter, and another book by Piper. And so if you are interested in any of those books, I'll be giving them away for free. What you're going to have to do is this. If you want to get a chance to win one of those books, I will just send it to you for free. What you're going to have to do is, 1, you're going to have to subscribe to my brand new Spreaker podcast channel, which will be probably in the next week or so will show up. That's 1. So subscribe to that. Then you need to also leave a review and a comment. Okay, so rate it. You need to rate it and leave a comment. And if you do those 3 things, I will put your name into the hat, and you could win one of these books for free of your choice. Choose whichever one you like. I will send it to you. And if there's one of my books that you don't have, I might even be willing to do that as well. Although most of my books are available as PDFs anyway for free, as well as This Is My Body is available for free as an ebook. Download also on my blog at keithgiles.com. Anyway, that's 5 minutes I wasted doing announcements. I apologize. Let's get into our topic. So what I wanted to talk about, this has kind of been something that's been on my mind for a couple of weeks. I was going to blog about it. I actually wrote a blog, but I didn't publish it because I was letting it sink in a little bit, and then actually, took a little break from some things. And anyway, here's what I want to talk about. So a couple of weeks ago, I had some very bizarre interactions with people on Facebook. And I'm going to describe them to you, and this may have happened to you before, I don't know, but it was just bizarre to me that I had two of these kinds of interactions almost back to back. And it just really, I was flabbergasted, to be honest. I didn't even know what to make of it. So, and I call it cognitive dissonance. So here's what happened. So first, I had been doing some research. I wrote a little blog for my other blog, which is Pacifist Fight Club. I was doing research, and that blog is called "Are You Living in a Dystopian Society?" or something like "You Might Be Living in a Dystopian Society If." And then it's just a list of things, and then each one of these things that I list has a link that if you click on it will link off to a video or another article or something that kind of substantiates the claim or the statistic. So as I was doing research for that blog, I came across several different websites that sort of listed some things about America that aren't so great. Kind of challenging the idea that we're number one, like America's number one, America's the greatest. Because really, if you're honest, if you look at the statistics, America is actually not number one. We're like the bottom of the list when it comes to education, to obesity. We're number one in obesity, but we're at the bottom of the list when it comes to health. We're at the bottom of the list when it comes to deaths by heart disease and all these kind of things. So anyway, it's looking at that. It was kind of looking at violence and people incarcerated and the drug problem and crime and all this kind of stuff. So I came across, like I said, in the course of doing the research for that article, a couple of blogs that listed, I think one of them had like 41 different statistics about things like this, about basically the truth about America and the fact that we're really not the greatest nation on the planet. And I shared one of those articles on Facebook. And a guy got really mad at me. And I don't really know the guy very well, but his comments were very, very heated, and he was very upset. And so I was trying to sort of diffuse his anger. And I get it. I understand when someone says something like that. It's a shock, right, to hear something like that. That's something you're not used to hearing. So I said, well, that link, that article lists 41 facts, 41 statistics about America, again, that are not so favorable. And I said, now, most of those statistics are I think are true objectively. They're true. And so I asked him, again, trying to diffuse his anger and maybe hopefully enter into a constructive dialogue with him over some specific points. I said, well, which of the ones that are listed there in that article, and again, I didn't write this article, and I'm just trying to, hey, why don't you and I back up a little bit and just talk about it? So I said, which of those things that are untrue, that you and I that upset you the most, right? Which of those things do you disagree with? In other words, like, hey, that can't be true, or that isn't right, and then I'm assuming that's where his anger is coming from. So anyway, I said, which of these are untrue that we could talk about? Which one's upsetting you the most that isn't true? And this was his response to me. This is where it starts to get insane for me. Okay, I'm not kidding you. This is what he said. He said, unfortunately, I'm quoting, unfortunately, I believe most of them to be true. And that's where I really just couldn't understand what was happening. And what he went on to tell me is that he did not disagree with the facts in that article, but he was still angry at me. Not angry that America wasn't as awesome as he wanted it to be or as that he believed it to be. Not angry because he was now wrestling with and dealing with the reality, the truth, that he was wrong about America, this nation that he loves so much. No, none of that. He admitted that those facts were true, but he was angry at me for telling him the truth. That was the first thing that happened. That was really weird. And then a couple of days later, something else happened. Again, another example of something really weird. So a guy that I know, he's a Christian, posted something on Facebook that was a lie. It was something that wasn't true. And by the way, we do this all the time. I've done this. I've done this myself several times. So out of courtesy to him, I could have, and I've done this as well. I've done this also. Someone posts something, an article that makes some kind of claim about something, and, you can look it up on Snopes in about 10 seconds and find out that, oh, this isn't true. And, typically under the comment section, you just post it and say, hey, this is a hoax, this is fake, blah, blah. But honestly, I was trying to go out of my way with this brother to not embarrass him on his page. So I didn't just immediately comment underneath his post and say, hey, this is fake. I private messaged him, and I said, brother, out of a courtesy to you, I just wanted you to know that post that you just made about blank is wrong. It's fake. It's a misquote. And I gave him 2 links to show him that. One was from Snopes, and one was from factcheck.com. That exposed the fact that what he had posted was not true. It was a blatant lie. What it was quoting someone's, it was saying this person said this, and it was a quote. And it was a quote from the book the person wrote, an autobiography about his life. And it said on page 92, paragraph 4, he said this, and here's the quote. And that quote is completely made up. He did not say that. If you got a copy of that book and turned to that page and looked at that paragraph and read what it said in that paragraph, it does not say what he says, or the link that he shared says, that he said. So, again, out of a courtesy to him, I messaged him privately and I told him that. And I gave him those links to let him know. Now, I expected a reaction like, oh man, sorry, dude. My bad. Didn't take time to verify the quote. This happens a lot. I'll take it down. But that is not his response. His response to me was basically to attack me. How dare I tell him what he can and can't post on his Facebook page. And that he was, quote, and again I'm quoting, he was entitled to his opinion. Now, this is what's weird to me. I just told him that the link to the article, that he didn't write the article. It's an article someone else wrote, misquoting someone from a book that's in print. This has nothing to do with anyone's opinion. In other words, I'm not asking your opinion about a book that you haven't read, obviously. I'm stating the fact that your post that you're sharing is a lie about an actual fact. And I'm not asking your opinion. It's not about anyone's opinion. It's about the truth. Anyway, so we went back and forth, and try as I might, I could not get him to see that posting lies about people as a Christian, again, he's a believer, posting lies about people that you disagree with is not good, not correct, not right. That as a Christian, you should care more about the truth. And that's eventually what I finally got to. I said, brother, because he began to accuse the person he was misquoting and was committed to misquoting, even knowing that it was a lie, defending his right to misquote this person, and in his defense called that person a liar. And so I said, man, I don't care if that person's a liar. I don't even care about that person, by the way. I'm not even defending that person. That guy probably could be a liar. But in this case, shouldn't we as Christians care more about the truth? In other words, I don't want anyone to say that I'm a liar. I should be committed to telling the truth. And if I have an honest grievance against this person, then let's talk about that. But let's not invent things they didn't say. to make them look bad, knowing that what they said is not what they said. Anyway, again, this person got angry at me for telling them the truth. And that those two things happening back to back in the same week, it just, I didn't know what to do with that. It drove me a little nuts. And so I began praying about that and thinking about that. And then a couple of days later, I got an email that included this quote. I'm going to read you the quote. Hopefully this makes sense to you. Here's the quote. It was another article, and it was talking about this idea. And he says, neurobiologist Robert A. Burton points out in his book, On Being Certain, that the sensation of being sure about one's beliefs is an emotional response, which is separate from the processing of those beliefs. It's something the brain does subconsciously to protect itself from wasting unnecessary processing power on problems for which you've already found a solution that's good enough. The feeling, that's right. Okay? When you get the feeling, that's right. It's a feeling that you get so you can move on to something else. It's kind of a subconscious laziness. I'm back to quoting the article here. Just as it's harder to go for a run than to just plop onto the sofa, it's harder to re-examine your assumptions than it is to embrace certainty. At one end of the spectrum of skeptics are scientists who by disposition or training resist the easy path, and at the other end are conspiracy theorists who will leap effortlessly into the sweet bosom of certainty without any evidence. So that helped to shed a little bit of light on the fact that people mentally, psychologically, and emotionally tend to grab onto truths that emotionally make them feel good. And then at that point, they tell themselves, that's good enough. And they give themselves a feeling that they're right. And that reinforces their opinion, so that when you come at them with the truth, it's not enough to move them off the position. They have decided that that feels good, and they don't want to let go of the feeling of being right, even if you prove to them that they're wrong. So to kind of further that thought, a couple days after that, this was a long process of thinking through this, I was reading in the Gospel of John, and I noticed something, that Jesus is speaking to the Jews, and Jesus is telling them about the good news of the kingdom, and telling them about the fact that he is the Messiah, and telling them that what they're doing is wrong, and what they need to do is abandon that way of thinking, to let go of that way of thinking, and to follow him. And then Jesus says this. I'm quoting from John 8:39. He says, if you were Abraham's children, then you would do what Abraham did. And as it is, you are looking for a way to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. Abraham did not do such things. You are doing the works of your own father. And I'm going to stop there. And actually, this happens a couple of times. There's another place in John 8, starting in verse 44, verse 45, where he says, yet because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. And again, it's in the context of wanting to kill him. So that at least helped me to understand a little bit, to say, okay, there is something going on here. That when you tell people the truth, and by the way, this continues to happen to me. This happens to me all the time. You tell someone the truth, and they'll even acknowledge that what you're saying is the truth. But they are angry at you for telling them the truth. They're not angry at the fact that they believe something false. And again, I don't get it on one level. But I guess on another level, I do get it, because this is something that Jesus experienced quite often. He would speak the truth to people, and yet even though he had spoken the truth to them, what they wanted to do was to kill him. They were angry at him. So I don't know what else to do with that other than to just point it out and to say, yes, this does happen, and no, I don't fully understand it. But here's one thing I have started to do. I've stopped trying to convince people who are in that position, people who have that reaction. Maybe I shouldn't, but I've just decided, you know what? Every time I've tried, I fail. It just doesn't work. I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm just going to continue to write blogs. I've started doing memes, by the way, just creating visual, taking graphics and putting statements above that or scriptures above that, and just sharing those through Pinterest as well as through Twitter and Facebook, and also on my blog, just kind of hitting all the different channels, and just let it be, you know. And what I've noticed is when I share those kind of things, I just shared one this week, by the way, some people thank me for it. They say, thank you, Keith. Thank you for saying this. Thank you for sharing this. I'm so glad someone is pointing out this truth in this way. And I love that. I cherish the fact that people do get it and they do thank me for it. Now, there's also people that hate me for that and attack me for that and don't get it, or they do get it, but they don't want to get it. They don't like having it out there. How dare you point out this truth? And for those people, I'm just letting it ride, letting it roll off. I'm not even going to try to argue that position. I'm just going to let the truth be the truth. And anyway, I'm going to let this one be the end of our podcast because, again, unfortunately, I don't really have a resolution for this other than to say, if you're experiencing this kind of thing, or maybe you didn't know what was going on, if nothing else, maybe this will help explain why sometimes people react the way they do, and no matter what you say, you can't get them to change their position or to acknowledge the truth for what it is. But at any rate, that's been my experience these last couple of weeks, and I have decided I am going to not try to get into kind of comment wars with people on Facebook and that kind of thing. I'm just going to let things be what they are. And there you go. So keep your eye out for the new Spreaker podcast series that will be showing up on iTunes as well. I will post the rules to the contest if you're interested in winning one of these books. I'll post that to my blog as well with all the details on that, how you can find the blog on iTunes, subscribe to it, and leave a rating and a comment, and you will be entered in the drawing. Again, thank you for listening. I thank you all so much for supporting me and the podcast. Please send me your ideas for topics and questions and any feedback. I crave that. I love that. I appreciate that so very, very much. God bless you. Good night, and we will talk again. Let the kingdom come. Good night.